got to admit, I didn't even realize today was Thursday. Even though I knew it, I didn't realize it. I knew it based on what today was, but when having to do certain things, I'm like, yeah, dang, it really is Thursday. As we were leaving Vince, and he said, I'll see you on Monday. What? Well, yeah, it's Thursday. He's going to work from home on Friday. Welcome to the PHLY.
We're counting days of the week. You can tell it's an action-packed day.
With Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens. Brianna here producing the show as always. And you in the chat, we of course can't do it without you. We appreciate you all checking in with us on a Thursday at 3 o'clock. Our apologies for the half-hour late start. But we are here. We have a lot to talk about, especially as we do have basketball tonight. The Minnesota Timberwolves taking it back to Minnesota. Still, they need to win Game 5.
Come on, boys. We need some more
6.
basketball to get us to the final.
And with that, they have the Boston Celtics waiting for them on the other side. And that's where we begin our conversation this afternoon, because as the Celtics appear in yet another finals, whether it's the conference finals, the NBA finals, they have been to a bunch. Jason Tatum is to the point where he is saying, you know, I've been to so many conference finals in my first few years here now. It has been, since 2018, I think he was drafted, Jason Tatum. And wasn't it 28? Because Ben was 2016. I thought Ben was 2016.
It was definitely around 2018.
Ben was 2016 because he was the reward for the terrible season.
And that was a Jalen Brown.
Yes.
So he came 2017.
Because Kale was 18, so Tatum was
2017. Mikal was
18. That was 18.
Markelle was 2017 with Tatum. Yeah.
Exactly. So Jason Tatum has been to a bunch of these.
We decided what year everyone got.
We started off
first. We did days, then we did draft years. Next, we're going to do eras.
We can do that
like a Taylor Swift tour, you know?
Yeah. Well, why not? It's the summertime. That's when she's going to have her shows.
The Tortured Sixers department.
There you go. But he's talked about how many conference finals he's been in at this point. Doesn't mean anything anymore because it's about winning the championship, being in the finals a few times. He hasn't done it. What we talk about is, when are they going to get out of the second round? We're having conversations with Michael in Portugal saying that's not up for discussion. Stop bleeding this into the people's head and giving them this false hope because they get to the conference finals. No, it's about NBA finals winning the championship. Well, they haven't gotten there yet to do that. That said, with Boston going back, New York getting to a good spot. Second round, 2 years in a row. Indiana this year getting to the conference finals against the Pacers. Milwaukee.
We're going to give New York credit for getting the second round 2 years in a row. The Sixers are masters at getting this, not this year, but most years.
Hey,
it's more pertinent that they beat the Sixers.
Exactly. Milwaukee and Miami and so on and so forth. But every year we talk about how good the Sixers are and they're contenders. Where are they now? As we look at things right now, Boston getting ready for another title possibility. Where are the Philadelphia 76ers now as we look at this basketball team trying to go into this offseason to put together the right roster to make the run that we're talking about when we put so much emphasis on the free agent market or the trade possibilities? Where are they now, Kyle? When you look at the 76ers in the Eastern Conference, are they still 2? Are they 3? Are they 4? Where are they?
Well, so I was going to ask, do you want to do this? We can do team by team, stack them up. Present day, future, what their trajectory is, or how do we want to handle this exactly?
I would say we each just give sort of like where we place them, and then we can debate the teams around them sort of organically, but who knows? We can do it anyway.
Okay, so obviously the Sixers have more questions to answer because of the nature of their plan than some of these other teams, right? That being said, other than Milwaukee, and if we're just keeping the Celtics out of this, because I think they've earned the right to be treated as the cream of the crop in the conference. You know, I know our friend AC Phila is bagging on Tatum in the chat, and there are times that I'm with you, but unfortunately it doesn't really matter because the team has been constructed well enough that they can survive and win games in the playoffs when Jason Tatum plays like hot ass. So
what a luxury to have.
It is quite a nice luxury to have. So looking at 2 downward in the conference for, let's call it, because I talked about the next 3 years specifically in my most recent article I did for all PHLY. I think they are positioned to be at worst the 3rd team and doesn't have to be a highly optimistic scenario to be number 2. And I'll tell you why. Milwaukee is the team that has the superstar on par or in the same category as Joel Embiid in Giannis. And Giannis is basically the only thing I feel good about in Milwaukee right now. To get that 21 title and to keep Giannis happy, to try to continue competing and failing because of injuries, they have basically given away all their meaningful youth, all their draft picks, all the draft picks they're capable of trading anyway. And Doc Rivers is the head coach. We all have shared our feelings about Doc. Dane clearly looks like he's on the decline. Don't love the role players. It's going to be very difficult for them to build a consistently competitive team. And oh, by the way, Giannis on top of that has had injury issues in the playoffs both the last 2 years. Now, whether that's a trend moving forward or just a blip, hard to know. But as a guy who's very reliant on his athleticism and his body to be as good as he is, it's worth noting. So then you go to the Knicks. And the Knicks were the number 2 seed. They beat Milwaukee out on the final day. Certainly we saw firsthand where they're at relative to the Sixers, at least in that specific series. And I am not going to sit here and trash the Knicks in any way. They certainly earned their 50-win season. Brunson is awesome. He's on a great contract moving forward. They've preserved flexibility with picks and cap space, so on and so forth. I do think there's a little bit of like, it's early Tibbs. They're overperforming. The honeymoon phase is perhaps coming to an end. And now they go into next season not as a fun story, an upstart, an up-and-comer, but a team that people are going to be paying attention to. A team that will not... Now, because they're the Knicks, because they play at the Garden, guys don't go to New York and take the Knicks lightly even when they're bad because of the aura, however you want to phrase it, at Madison Square Garden. But on a player-to-player, team-to-team level, I think they will get a lot more scrutiny next year. And I do think, certainly in that round 1 series, there's some fluky stuff with Josh Hart's shooting and things of that nature.
Official calls.
So I feel at least as good about the Sixers moving forward, mostly because the Sixers have Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. And Maxey is a very important part of that. Brunson is ascending into that like close to tier 1 star status where Joel Embiid is at. But I am not a general believer of the piece it together with role players type of plan. And I don't know what the next move is for New York, especially if Donovan Mitchell ends up in Cleveland. So despite the fact that they lost to this team directly, I still think there's a strong case to be made. The Sixers can and will be the second best team in the East.
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer because right now the Sixers grade is incomplete. You have no idea what the team's going to look like outside of Embiid and Maxey. So, and whether or not they can be as good as anyone, like if Daryl Morey does great, they should be the second best team in the East. If he does his job, they should probably at least just be the third or the fourth best team in the East. That's sort of like the bottom.
The floor is like 4-ish.
Yeah.
I think I'd agree with that.
Anything below that, and they've failed or they've been injured. That's always something you have to throw out. And quite frankly, like when we start talking about this, it doesn't necessarily reflect in the standings because the difference between the 3rd and the 8th seed in the East this year was like 3 games, I think. It was really, really tight. But in terms of like teams that you would be scared of in the playoffs, teams that you would think the Sixers would be, they should be a favorite against everyone other than the Celtics. And probably, I honestly, it might only be the Celtics. I'm not a huge believer in like the Sixers healthy and with a 3rd star should be able to play with anyone else. That includes Indy. That includes New York. I think New York, when we start talking about the role player route, I think that's going to be tough to keep them around long term, especially like obviously Brunson has, what does he have? 2 more years left on his contract?
I believe so.
More?
2.
So like the next 2 years,
and there's already that reporting out there about he might take like a way below market extension, which I frankly don't buy, but
yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. But if he ends up getting paid what he's worth, it becomes a lot tougher to keep. and if OG ends up getting $35-40 million as we think he will, it's going to get tougher to keep someone like Josh Hart at $20 million per year. It's going to get tougher to keep Mitchell Robinson at $15 million per year or whatever he's making. It's going to be a lot more difficult to keep, like, a big part of we're building around role players as well is that your star is underpaid. And once that star is no longer underpaid, keeping that core around becomes much more difficult. So I do think that they're going to have some tough contract decisions going forward. Frankly, I think the Celtics are going to have some very tough contract decisions going forward as well. Obviously, Tatum, I think, has one more year left. And when you've got those two big names making $120 million a year combined, all of a sudden it becomes a lot tougher to keep Kristaps Porzingis, who has maybe 1 year left on his deal, and Derek White, who has
that's part of why I was surprised that they paid Drew ahead of the offseason and gave him a pretty serious financial commitment moving forward. Because to your point, the rubber is going to meet the road. They're not going to be paying the exorbitant luxury tax fees and sacrificing the team building mechanics to keep this exact group together. Will a couple of them be there? Sure, like more than likely Tatum and Brown are the foundation guys, but everything else is liable to change in the next 2-3 years.
And even that, if they don't win in a big way, if they don't win a title, you could see major changes. I'm not certainly reporting that, but just when you start talking about two players, constituting 2/3 of your salary cap, like, that's really tough to build around. So I guess what I'm saying is I think our immediate takeaway coming out of the playoffs was that we were more confident in Embiid and Maxey. If that's the case, and if Daryl Morey does his job in getting a third star and is able to put complementary pieces around him, I see no reason the Sixers shouldn't be back up in that second or third most dangerous team in the Eastern Conference.
I agree. I think that's exactly where they are, right there between 2 and 3. It's always 2 and 3, Boston, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee, and you have those other teams hovering, whether it be Miami in the past, and now with New York creeping up to where they currently are right now. I still don't think it's enough, because even with the example of Derek, as you just said, they only have 4 players on the roster. I saw someone else in the chat mention the same thing. It's hard to do that when they have 4 players. Not really, because when you look at this past season that they still had the same 2 players. James Harden left, and they had role players around. Tobias Harris was supposed to be that other 3, at least to give you the consistency of what you feel he should in that third role, and others past him in that role. Kelly Oubre and a few others, Nick Batum, just becoming more valuable for what they did and helping the team win. So we're still looking at a situation where they were in there this season with those 2, one of which was really injured and missing 29 games. The other could not carry that load for the 29 games as we thought he might have been able to, even though it doesn't take away from how spectacular his season was. And they still, even at the end, we thought there was a possibility with some, as Derek pointed out, 3 games separating 3 all the way down to about 8. They were still in that conversation. So if we are to believe that Maxey is going to take that next step, whatever that step might be, and be coming back healthy and giving you the normal 60, 65 games, and Daryl Morey adding that third star and then filling out the roster with the rest of those role players, there is no reason why they should not still be the second and at worst third. But to your point, we'll give them the floor of the 4 because of what the other teams, you can't ignore what they are right now and what they could potentially add to their team with their health too. If we're going to talk about the Sixers' health, you have to also point out the health with the other teams as well and some changes that might be there. Cleveland starts really good early last season. They start to fade. Same thing with Orlando, where they started.
They have a massive question mark with the Mitchell Garland fit.
Yes,
like a massive, like that's
and the front court for that matter.
I mean, Mobley and
I'll do my Cleveland spiel in a little bit.
So with that, if not for the injuries, we were talking about the Sixers being right there as the best team with Boston in the Eastern Conference until Embiid went down. So as a result, I still think they're right there with you. The New York thing is fun. They are real now. They have everybody's attention. Let's just put it, I'll just say it that way. They have everybody's attention where they are legit. They're a tough team to play. They had the Sixers number this year, both in the regular season and as we saw it play out in the first round of the playoff matchup that they had. But with Embiid, I always put them at a high regard of where they should be in the conference because he's that good. And once again, in the second year of Nick Nurse's system, with Tyrese Maxey, year number 5, elevating his play again as his arrow just continues to go up, I believe they are that good in this conference where we're talking 2 to 4, but I put them at 2.
We're also starting to get some, and it's not unreasonable pushback on, well, they only have 2 guys, you argue 3 with Paul Reed, depending on, the decision they make with him.
4. Don't forget about Ricky.
And Ricky. No disrespect to Ricky. We love Ricky on this show.
Go get him, Rick.
So to only have, 4, approximately 4 guys next season. Well, how can you call them this? Well, if you look at some other teams we're talking about here, Milwaukee has like 7 guys that are locked in. And a couple of those guys are Pat Connaughton, hasn't been good for a couple of years. Beauchamp, who Doc Rivers doesn't want to play.
Yeah.
Brooke Lopez, 36-year-old center who showed signs of decline this past season. Like, certainly, if he was the Brooke Lopez of seasons past, defensively, they would have been a bit better than they were, right? Because he was in Defensive Player of the Year type conversations the year or 2 before that. Middleton is still good and had some real moments in that playoff series that I think I moved off of my he's done, he's washed thing, but he's certainly not. I don't have a ton of confidence in him. Yeah, like he can go have those random, I'm going to go off and score 35 type games, but the standard Chris Middleton game is not as good and not as high level anymore. So, and then there's Bobby Portis, who I like Bobby as a bench guy, but again, that's not a team of world beaters, and that's a team that has all of that cap allocated. The only guys they can add to the roster are exception and minimum type players. And that's the team that a lot of people think are like, okay, it's Giannis, so they got to be Giannis and Dame, got to be the second or third best team in the East. I don't think that's true. Like, I think they have real problems they got to sort out. They might have to make some trades involving the guys who are actually good just to round out the rest of the roster. It's hard to tell right now.
I mean, the Milwaukee thing is always interesting because we always look at them and we want that matchup in the playoffs where we wanted to see them go against Giannis and see how things go head to head with them in the conference finals and see how that plays out. And they haven't gotten there. But again, as you just laid out, Kyle, and you're saying this a little bit earlier when Derek mentioned the roster not being complete yet, and also in the chat, that being said, we know it's not complete. But was it really complete all season where we were looking at the guys after Maxey and Embiid? Harris took that step down. Others elevated their play, but it still wasn't enough. They were winning those games because of their 2 stars. And that's why we've been talking all season about that third star to come in and even add to that mix because of what's going to happen. They're going to do something. They're going to build out a roster, as I see Ford here saying, I just want a team to build out a roster. There's going to be a roster. They're going to field a team to go out there and play. The key is you have those 2. And right now, even with those 2 and not knowing what the rest of it looks like, that's why we still put them in such high regard of where they are, because Embiid is elite and Maxey is taking, again, that next jump potentially to be in that conversation. We
have Dave Doyer in the chat busting our balls a little bit, calling us homers. If you had some busted balls, do you know any way to fix that, Devon?
I do. I do.
What a segue.
Yeah, I do. You know what you can do to bust? Yes, Dave.
Not bust your balls.
Not.
Importantly, because they have an LED light.
Correct. You can clean up those areas that you want to talk about from our friends Manscaped, especially with Father's Day looming. It's on the way, fellas. Ladies, if you want to make sure you take care of your significant other and you purchase something for Father's Day before you know it, it'll be here again. It's ignored sometimes, but hey, we're trying to put the message out there that don't forget about Father's Day. It's coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Maybe your pops has had, whatever he's had in that area since the 70s. I don't know how you'll know that, but maybe you do. And if you do,
you have many conversations with your pops about below-the-belt grooming.
We had to teach you about the birds and the bees and things of that nature as you got older. Our friends at Manscaped,
the birds, the bees, and the balls.
Total package.
There you go. New tagline, Manscaped Retirement.
Make sure
marketing.
You say that at the end. Whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there, Manscaped has the bases covered for you. Head over to manscaped.com, get 20% off, plus free shipping. It's always fun to have that with code PHLY from, Kyle loves this saying, from daddy to zaddy. Trust Manscaped.
Oh, yeah.
You know the beard trimmer that your dad's been using since you were in grade school. Maybe you know about that one because he's just cleaning up the neckline and the facial hair, all of that. Well, it's probably time for an upgrade. And if so, introducing the Beard Hedger Pro Kit to dad might be a nice gift. A complete beard maintenance kit for all the bearded kings out there. We speak about the Philly beard that the guys have around here, your cousin, your brother, your dad, grandpa, whoever it might be. They want to trim the facial hair themselves. Get this, all-in-one kit comes with a beard hedger, Manscaped most advanced beard trimmer, as well as shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for the beard. It all comes with a brush, comb, scissors, so you can style the beard yourself, mustache as well for the true gentleman that he is. So, no beard kit would be complete without Manscaped Handyman Face Shaver for that smooth finish we know he loves. This bad boy is all he needs. Compact enough to fit in the travel case. Make sure he takes this on the trips next month, the month after that, whatever it might be. He'll always be grateful for it. The boxers that we mentioned, 2.0, were designed with a simple mission to make the most comfortable boxers a man could buy. It starts.
I've heard it all. Underwear 2.0.
Hey, man.
Unbelievable.
Get this one. The Jewel Pouch, a dedicated space that cradles that area in the place where their perforated performance fabric for extra breathability. If you want all of this and 20% off plus free shipping, use code PHLY at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code PHLY. Never forget where you came from, if you know what I mean. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped.
I unfortunately do know what you mean.
It's fortunate because you know what we're talking about. Manscaped.
Well, we also want to make sure we tell you about Banking 2.0 because this is an upgraded version.
Banking 2.0.
Banking
Everything's
2.0.
2.0.
This is an upgraded version.
When do we get Derek and Devon and Kyle 2.0?
We've heard from a number of people recently who joined TrueMark Financial Credit Union right here in Philly, and it's been an eye-opening experience to see the difference between, look, we do this a lot, between banking at a bank compared to becoming a member of a credit union. Like I said, Banking 2.0 improved. When you join a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you become part owner, which means profits come back to you instead of going to shareholders. TrueMark Financial has better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and more flexible options overall. And of course, the same digital tools and technology we all want. But the best part is TrueMark Financial is local. They're headquartered in Fort Washington, and with 24 branches across the Philly area, they are deeply rooted in our community. They serve our community and only our community, so their investments and programs help our people right here at home. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer at a bank. It's a total no-brainer. Head over to truemark.com/PHLY to learn more or to find a branch near you. That's truemark.com/PHLY, federally insured by the NCUA.
Barbara Carroll, by the way, said regarding the grooming that Devon should consider waxing instead.
That's not what it doesn't fit with Manscaped right now.
I don't think so. Also, after having seen the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin, where Steve Carell actually got his chest waxed for that movie, and those yelps of pain he gave were allegedly authentic.
Yes,
that was enough for me to say, you know what? You leave the waxing to other people like Steve Carell.
Yeah, no thank you. I'll pass on that. But you didn't do the tagline at the end, man. The new tagline. I forgot what it was. Yeah.
The birds and the bees and the balls. Yeah,
there you go. Real fast, Bill says in the super chat, will you guys have an episode talking about the possibility of trading Embiid?
There is a 0% chance they trade Embiid.
There's your episode,
Bill. Would you like me to say no for 50 straight minutes? No. We could probably do one at some point.
Look, when we get into August and September,
we'll be deep in the offseason. And if they can't sign Paul George and none of these trades come to fruition, it'll be like, well, what would you say you do here? Yeah. So I think we could get to it. My hope would be we don't have to because they build a good team in the offseason.
Spo Baby says, Bill, I wish I could thumbs down that super chat.
And look, there are intellectual debates over whether or not it would make sense to preemptively trade him because you don't believe that they can win a title. I don't agree with that, but I can at least entertain like I said, the theoretical debate. It's purely academic, though. Unless Joel Embiid requests out, and I don't think he will. I think there's a very almost minuscule, borderline 0% chance he asks out. But unless that happens, they're not trading Embiid. It's just the reality. And it's what they should do, by the way. They should absolutely keep Embiid for as long as he's playing.
You're saying they should keep a great player?
I do agree with keeping MVP caliber players. Yes.
No.
And pro MVPs.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah. What do you think of the other tier of the teams that we spoke about? We put New York in that conversation, at least with the Sixers, Milwaukee, and Boston for at least what they did this season, getting the number 2 seed. They did not advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, but you did bring up Cleveland, a team that has hovered around there the last 2 seasons after acquiring Donovan Mitchell, but they disappointed being knocked out in the first round by New York last season. And even though they did advance to the second round, again, another disappointment because of the things that came after, which Donovan Mitchell potentially being traded, having to figure out that backcourt with Darius Garland. Same thing with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, how they're going to be able to coexist. How much of a threat do you see them in the East? Especially, one, if Mitchell stays, that's number one. But also looking at if they have to break up that backcourt of how that might be. Because they're going to replace Darius Garland if they move him.
So would we feel comfortable saying the next tier of teams is that 4, 5, 6 from this year, Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana? Is that fair to say?
You still take Miami out of that with the Jimmy piece?
So Miami exists in weird territory, or I never count them out. So if I don't put them in one of these higher tiers, It's not me putting a finger in the eye of Heat culture and all that. It's just I don't know what they're doing because the Jimmy situation is unresolved right now. They'll probably be the 7th or 8th seed again, and next year will be the zombie playoff run where Caleb Martin shoots 8,000% from 3.
Make it to the conference finals.
Yeah, like whatever. So they're almost the Heat are. I've said this on the show. The Heat are basically not worth discussing on actual basketball terms because they just don't make any sense to me for the most part. So, of that Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana group, if we're talking about the young upstarts who can, or if you want to argue Indy has passed them, can or might pass them, I actually am most scared of Orlando.
Yep, same.
Because they have the building blocks. I think Paolo is really good. I think Franz is really good. I think they have guys who are at least reasonable trade chips if they decide to move them. Suggs step forward gives, if they get another real guard in there, a great defensive partner there that he's allowed them to preserve their identity while also getting some improvement at the guard spot. And I think if they get one real shot creator, that goes from a team that was still 47-35 because their defense was very good to that's a team I could easily see winning mid-50s and being like one of those top teams in the East.
Offensively, what were they, like 20?
Yeah, they were not good. I don't know off the top of my head, but they lagged behind.
But to your point, if they have the building blocks defensively, if they have the young talent emerging offensively, you need that one sort of like perimeter playmaker to tie it all together, and they have the resources to go get them. Yeah, I had them right there in the mix of teams that could challenge for that 2, 3, 4 spot along with the Sixers, even though they haven't been there in this latest playoff run.
And so to circle back to what you asked, Devon, which is about Cleveland, for me, almost even if things break right for them, there are just too many question marks about how they need to build it that the next few years to me, almost by definition, will be chaotic. Like, okay, they probably are going to make a decision between Mitchell and Garland based on the intel we have, right? Like if Mitchell, for whatever reason, recommits and says, I'm signing the extension, the word out there right now is that Rich Paul is going to say, okay, well, Darius Garland's got to go somewhere else where he can run a team and be the guy and find a better fit for him. So, okay. So then what does it look like after that? Also looking at the front court, right? Like, I don't think you should be building around Mobley and Allen. I do think at some point you're going to have to probably choose. You should be, if you think Mobley was good enough to take him where he was, and he had a good end to the series against Boston in the playoffs, I think you have to go all in on him as a full-time center at some point and say, we have to live with the positives and negatives, similar to how Oklahoma City did this past year. Now, Oklahoma City ran into some problems in round 2, in part because they at least needed a rotation big. Like I know people had tied them to Jonas Valanciunas this offseason potentially. I think he'd be a good guy to get there, that he doesn't need to be a starter closer, but would be a decent workload minute guy that can help with rebounding and what have you in specific matchups. So I think Cleveland should probably go more of that route. And then that invites more questions, more problems. Can Mobley be a full-time center? Like, does he have the strength to do that? Can he also expand his range where he's a consistent floor spacer and help them build the team out in that way? So there's just a lot going on with them. It's why I would bet on Orlando. They already have a pretty firm identity. It doesn't feel like they're missing anything other than the personnel. They need a connective piece, that final guy. It is a tough guy to get, right? Like a playmaking, floor spacing guard who doesn't necessarily dominate touches. It is a sort of specific player, but I think there are enough of them out there that I would expect them to leap past Cleveland fairly soon.
My only question with that is the Franz Wagner piece. As much as I like him, he took a step back a little bit this season.
Playoffs were a little bit rough for him at times.
Yeah, and even during the regular season, watching some of their games, it was like, it just doesn't look like the same guy that I saw from last season, even though I like his play, watching him and seeing them hover in that 2, 3, 4 range for a better part of the season as far as the seeding goes. I just wonder if it's something that, sure, he's going to go into the offseason, probably going to play a lot of basketball in the Olympics for what everybody wants to play for their national team. And even coming back, is it something that while he's working on things, did they figure something out to slow him down a little bit? Are the shooting numbers there from the perimeter where it has to be somebody else to step up and take a little more responsibility in that role? Maybe that is the resources that they have to go get that other secondary ball handler or that playmaker that you talked about earlier, Derek. But that's the one thing that I do question. The center position is what it is with Carter and Isaac and how they rotate their bigs. They know their roles. Paolo taking that other jump as an all-star and keeping that pace in the face of that franchise. The Wagner piece a little bit would question me just a little bit of staying. He's got to
shoot better is the big thing
I think that's
him.
A big part of it. Like, he went from shooting 35, 36% the first 2 years to like mid to upper 20s.
28.1%. And his volume actually went a little bit.
So I think if he would have came out and shot, like, let's say taken a slight step up, like let's say 37, 38% on volume, then all of a sudden that small jump he took probably looks like a pretty big leap. And I think he can shoot. I think he will get that back. I don't think that was a fluke the first 2 years. So I'm relatively confident on him. I don't know about him being like a 1 guy or a 1A guy, but I'm confident in him being a piece, and I'm confident that front court working well together. But I do think they need point guard play pretty badly.
Yeah. I think Franz can be a top 3 guy is what I would say.
So how do you look at Jalen Suggs then if you say you need to
I thought he took a pretty important leap.
No, for sure. But you say point guard play. So is it him improving his point guard play or someone else coming in?
No, I think it's probably someone coming out and him playing more off ball. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
And I think he improved his shot to give you hope that he can do that. And he's just such a tenacious defender that even if he's an imperfect fit offensively, you deal with it because he's a great defender.
But they still also seem like an offense that will have Paolo bringing the ball up, Wagner bringing the ball up, initiating things.
You're probably not going to get a traditional point guard in that role, to your point. I think you're right.
It could be. I keep floating Malik Monk as like that. Right. Now, he has his drawbacks. I think he's going to get paid a lot of money for a guy that is going to hijack the offense at times, for a guy who defensively has some real concerns, but for a team that needs creation and can hide his weaknesses, I think that they make as much sense as a landing spot as anybody. And look, the reason I have some fear of them is just that I think that that version of a team built around big athletic wings can defend basically anybody. I think they're fairly tough, like Suggs certainly too adds to that identity. They're just a bear of a team to try to play in the playoffs. Like Mitchell was going out there and scoring 40 and 50 points just to like squeak by these guys at the end of that series. They were not winning decisively against a team in their first playoff run together, a bunch of young guys as the foundational pieces of the team. And we're talking about Mitchell playing a heater of a series, and they still got to 7. So one or two guys can make a massive difference for that team. I think like they are primed for they could make a big leap next season.
Okay. All right. And again, I like Wagner. I like that team.
Yeah.
As far as putting them in that mix there that we're talking about, I can see them sliding back in the moment.
Yeah.
When it happens, as much as they'll do it early and surprise a lot of people, maybe not, but they're starting off 25-10 and they're up there, but then they take a little bit of a dip at some point as things get a little bit tighter.
Yeah. So how about do we want to talk about our partners and then come back to Indy, I guess? Because Indy is probably one of the more interesting.
Yeah, it's a long conversation.
Probably deserve their own
Indy
segment here, right? The Pacers.
TJ, man. TJ.
I've had a lot of conversations with people about TJ lately. I'm very happy for him. I'll leave it at that because it's. I liked him here, but he has certainly gotten better. Like he is not the same. He's the best version of himself now in a way that he was not when he was here.
Yeah, but for what he signed with in Indy, like it was like 2 years.
It was pretty small.
Yeah.
Was it similar to what Shake Milton got last offseason?
I don't remember exactly.
It was a little bit more than that.
When he initially
It might have been
left.
a bit more. I can't
a little
remember.
bit more.
Anyway, got another hopefully warm weather weekend ahead, guys. We'll be out in the sun. I will personally be down at the beach. And I'm going to have my Shady Rays on, hanging out at the beach. And you guys can get ready for the season ahead with Shady Rays quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably even have a style that's in your favorite team's colors. I don't know if you want to wear the red, white, and blue of the Sixers, but they have all kinds of different colors, different frames for you to check out. You guys have seen me wear my Shady Rays on the show. You'll probably see them. Teaser, you might see them tomorrow at some point before I head down to the beach for the weekend.
Tomorrow's Friday.
But I wear them all the time in the car at the beach. I actually had them on when I was doing my roof work over the past holiday weekend. Had my Shady Rays on that protected my eyes while I had white sealant paint with the hot sun beating down on it, reflecting in my eyes. Never bothered my vision. Thanks to my perfect pair of Shady Rays. And by the way, guys, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it because they have the best protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. And if you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. No risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. What a deal. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
When he left for Indy, his first contract with the Pacers, 2 years, $7 million total.
Okay. 3.5 per?
Yep.
Not bad.
What did Shake get?
Oh, it was more than that, right? It was like...
Was it? Yeah, it was double. It was double. It was like 10? 11?
We also, guys,
No, I got it.
Are you telling me this is a great podcast here? What are you talking about?
Yeah, but
no, I'm telling you, we
years,
have
10
other
million.
things to
2
plug.
years, 10 million. Be on the lookout, folks, for allphlY.com. Make sure you look out for all the events calendar there for the upcoming things that are happening here at PHLY, and become a diehard member as well. You get great articles like Kyle dropped one earlier today about some good stuff there with the draft upcoming here next month with the 16th overall pick, what the Sixers could be looking forward to, what the past has been for the 16th overall pick, some other stuff coming from Derek as well in the diehard.
Mr. Numbers over there. Got some numbers for you.
Got some things there for you. Got Charlie with the NHL draft. Bo and Zach with OTAs going on right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. Got you taken care of, allphlY.com. And for the events that are happening, the golf tournament, our first annual golf tournament, Phillies takeovers as well. The first annual Liberty Open, July 13th, Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. Jaws has great courses. This is fantastic place. You got to go. Scramble format. Sign up as a single, foursome, or a sponsor for this whole event. 18 holes with the golf cart, tournament gifts and tee prizes, taste of Philly dinner, post-round ceremony at the pavilion, and unlimited draft beer for 2 hours.
We just had someone join the Discord while we're in the middle of promoting the...
Just like that.
Sales. It just works.
Just like that. Contest and team prizes on the course. And for the Phillies side of things, with their takeover, you're going to look out again at Gall and Company for the London series versus the Mets, June 8th and 9th. Check out allphly.com for more info. And with Gall and Company, they brought the food in last week. We had the wings. We tried the wings, right, Derek? Pretty good wings.
I have also had the kielbasa cheesesteak before because I used to live by one of their locations.
So he brought that in too, didn't he?
Pretty good.
Yeah, they were,
pretty good.
Pretty
Something
good.
different.
Yes. So again, check us out, allphly.com. And again, become a diehard member and take advantage of all the great perks that come along with it. All right. Indiana Pacers. Shake 2 million, 2 years, 10 million?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
All right. My bad, TJ. I didn't mean to shortchange you. I didn't, because you then got some more money later on. So there's that. Yeah.
But a little bit of inflation between those two contracts, a rising salary cap. It's probably about the same percentage of the cap.
2023. Yeah. That's about the same relative.
Also, TJ probably, like TJ just signed a $33 or $34 million contract. I don't know if Shake's getting that. So I think TJ might come out ahead.
Did you see that happening with their careers?
Wow, another person just jumped in the Discord.
See?
Look at that.
See, you transition from one shady raise to contracts, then to the read. That's how you add some diehard members. Just like that. We're pros.
Now, the person who just jumped in the Discord just yelled, "Go Birds." So I'm not sure it was because of this ad read, but we'll take credit for it.
That's okay. We'll team up with the Birds. Indiana. Let's get into the Pacers, Derek. When you look at them, getting to the conference finals, bit of a fluke, maybe, but they have some pieces there. They trade for Pascal Siakam.
Man, it would be nice if the Sixers ever got fluky, though, right? Like we talked about.
It did get fluky. They lost to get to the Atlanta Hawks. They jumped over them that season to get to the conference finals.
Just give me once.
Fair.
One fluke.
All right. So how do you look at them?
As a good team, and you expect the core of them to be around for a long time. Like Halliburton signed long term. Every report out there is Siakam's just waiting for it to happen. It's pretty much a done deal. And that is their two-man core. And now they got to figure out the role players to put around them. They got some contracts coming off the books. Looking at you, Doug McDermott, but some other ones. I know Miles Turner's, he's up for a new deal pretty soon. But I think they're a team that should be able to be kept around relatively well over the next couple of years. I think they're a good team. I do think they have some pretty serious flaws. I think if the Sixers go out there and get the third star that Daryl Morey has been talking about for almost literally the last year, I think they should be able to be a better team.
Yeah.
That defense is exploitable in the playoffs still.
And I was going to say, I do think they defended better in the playoffs than I expected. It was less of the like video game gimmick team than they were in the regular season. Now, credit to them for how their offense performed, right? I think that they certified why Rick Carlisle has had them play a certain way, right? Like all those guys through the bench, even after Halliburton goes down in the conference finals. I know they got swept, but they carried themselves with a pretty high degree of confidence and poise, and that's
they were
part
in
of
those games.
That's what I mean. So like they didn't execute down the stretch, and to me, that's more of a talent thing than anybody else. Talent and the mental aspect of inexperience, a good way to put it. All that, but I think you saw the dividends of playing the style of offense that they play. And some of that is also the downstream of Halliburton being the best player, where he's not I'm just going to take a million shots type of guy. He wants people to be involved. He's a creative passer, all that. So they certainly have a good foundation. I guess my problem with them is I'm lower on Halliburton than I guess what the consensus is. I have some concerns about him in terms of the half court, slow it down type stuff. Like I think you saw when Boston was able to bog them down, it was just like, well, what do they do? Right? That there was no plan. I think New York you saw a similar thing. It was a high degree of variance. I don't like that if I'm trying to project like, okay, who's got a real chance to come out of the East, challenge Boston, or even win a title, I don't like the degree of, and I don't love it with Joel's health and some stuff with the Sixers either. I just think on the Pacers end of things, I don't necessarily believe in the ceiling as much either, because I like Siakam, don't love him, like Halliburton, don't love him. And then, what happens with the role players? Can you get more guys to come there without sacrificing whatever you have left in terms of draft capital and what have you? Because let's be honest, Indiana, not exactly like the hotbed for free agents in the league.
No, and I think the key here with all of these teams, you can make a case for any of them being the second best team behind the Celtics. Celtics are the only one that truly separated themselves from the pack. And because of that, the Sixers have a chance to leapfrog right up along with any of them. I think Kyle was right. I like a lot of Indy's players. I think they're pretty flawed. Whether or not they are able to take what they learned in the playoffs defensively and sustain that, we will see. But I think when you are that bad defensively, I think there is a fundamental limit. Running up against Boston, I think sort of showed that there are some, like I said, there's a ceiling on that style of play. I do think they defended better in the playoffs than I expected. I even think at times in the half court when they were confined to it, they executed pretty well, but it wasn't consistently enough for me to completely throw away any concerns. But if they ended up being the second or third seed next year, would I be surprised? No, absolutely not. I think any team has a chance of doing that.
How much does Aaron Nemhard get paid this summer?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, well, and that's
maybe Orlando takes a swing at him.
That's part of the problem too. Like I said, when you have two stars now on pretty good salaries after they will the Siakam, how much depth can you realistically keep in the second apron, more punitive luxury tax, all that stuff? It'll be interesting.
Phil W. were getting real mad at me saying I forgot injuries. I did not forget that Tyrese Halliburton's ability to beat people off the dribble has been a concern dating back to when he played at Iowa State. This is not
even more specifically defensively, he's never been a good defender.
That has nothing to do with injuries. Did that make things worse? Certainly. He has most of the same concerns now as he did as a prospect. The only thing that he has really put to bed is that the funky shot has not impacted him, really. He's found a way to make that work. He's been a good, deep pull-up shooter, obviously a good catch-and-shoot guy as well. So that part he put to rest. But the other concerns, as far as he's the lead guard and all the responsibilities that come with that, he still has some very clear flaws that we'll see if he gets there. Seems like he really cares about the craft, obviously. I can't project whether Tyrese Halliburton becomes a better ball handler, becomes a better one-on-one isolation type player. That stuff matters, though, in the playoffs. So not saying I don't like him. I'm just saying I don't love him as much as the public seems to.
Those turnovers were bad in that.
Yeah,
game.
And look, that's one where I would say that I'm willing to say that's the inexperienced thing you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
the moment is big. You're in the conference finals. I don't think that has anything to do with skill set, right? I feel pretty confident. Average possession, Tyrese Halliburton can get the ball over half court. I think it's fair to say that any issues he has as a ball handler do not extend to that on a play-to-play basis.
Yeah. So where are the other team? We already talked about Miami's. Does anyone else seem like an up-and-coming type of team outside of Orlando?
You've got to watch out for the Bulls. They could win 38 games next year.
You're
especially if they keep Caruso
and DeRozan.
They're a real threat in that playing tournament.
So the Hawks are the highest.
Well, they also going to get
team.
Lonzo Ball back.
We'll see.
That's what he says.
The Hawks are high variance because I don't know what the hell they're going to do. It seems clear they're destined for a breakup of Murray and Young.
Well, I don't think you can trade Trey right now. His value is too low. You can't sell.
You probably
now.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't think they will either, because in a market where they haven't consistently been I'm trying to be nice to the Atlanta fans. They don't attend a lot of games in big numbers in Atlanta. And Trey is he's the main attraction, right? And I do think that, as far as I can tell, they care about that aspect, as everybody else does, but I think that's a particular concern there. But they do have the number 1 pick and what most people think is a bad draft. In theory, Atlanta is a decent market to lure guys. Like they were mentioned way back in the day now as like, hey, maybe Dwight Howard will go there back in the day, and they've been teased as a potential free agent destination.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I generally think Atlanta, if you were to go through a list of NBA cities, I think Atlanta normally ranks pretty high amongst the players at the very least. So if they make some moves, I'd like in the immediate term though, I think they got too many contracts they have to work out. That's more of a 2 to 3 years away type of thing. I don't think they're doing damage next year. It's more, how can you use the number 1 pick and future expirings, other contracts they have to cobble together something closer to a coherent team around Trey. Because the one thing I think they've probably figured out is it can't just be like, hey, Trey, do everything. But you also can't do let's just get another guy who wants to run the team and hope that together they can figure it out. It's got to be someone who slides into the backcourt and has a real defined role and skill set next to Trey to take burden off him, but also help him as a release valve, second side attacker, all that kind of stuff. Because it's the old, it's dueling banjos is what they play like and act like. And I don't think that's any way to build a coherent team. But they're the one, because Trey of that, from, again, throwing Miami out, because I don't ever know how to evaluate them. Trey is by far the most talented player in the rest of that group. It's just, what the hell is the rest of the team going to look like?
I'm disrespecting my Brooklyn Nets, man. I don't know.
I love your cousin, but he needs some help. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it as far as the Sixers, again, just simply being in that top 4 is where they are. And a lot of that could certainly change of where you put a stamp on who they are once the offseason gets underway. We see what happens around the draft. If they keep the 16th pick, if they move that, whatever that might look like. And then certainly when free agency gets underway, any targets that they go after, can they land that big fish to be that third star that Daryl Morey would like to see, I'm sure, and what Derek and Kyle have talked about here on the show. And we'll see what it looks like. But we do know that they're still very, very, very good with those 2 stars that they currently have on their roster.
I need you to tamper harder, Devon. I'm just going to
I've given up, man. We all know he's going to come up small. He's not going to come
one of these days. I'm not going to tell you
what's Gene in Devon's body.
I'm not going to tell you what the show topic is, and then we're just going to stage an intervention, and it's going to be, Devon, we need you to work harder on Mikhail.
Why did Devon Givens fail the city?
We won't show you anything. It's just, we'll do it all through super producer Bree. And
okay.
We'll have Vince sitting in here. We'll have our friend Jamie Lynch, Zach Berman, all the PHLY crew. Say, Devon, we need you to be better. We need you in his ear. We need you to be in Sean Marks' ear and say, Sean Marks, that high bar you're asking teams to clear that nobody has cleared quite yet.
I did see Sean Marks the last game too.
Hey, see?
Yeah, I did see Sean. Sean, what's going on, man? What's happening? What are we doing? We're not in the playoffs this year. What
Sean,
are we doing?
have your people talk to Devon's
My
people.
cousin hates your fucking guts.
Which is to say, talk to his cousin
people.
and get him to hear.
Right. His people. Yeah, no question about it. Guys, tonight, game 5. Derek, what are your thoughts? We extended to 6. We already said it. We extended.
Room for more basketball, baby.
More basketball. I know you were against it, but after seeing them play, does that change a little bit? Seeing how they did similar to
I
what
wasn't
Indiana.
against more basketball.
No,
I just
you
think
thought
Dallas
that they were done. Yeah.
I think Dallas is going to win the series still. And
Can
the
they
hope that
extend
I
it?
have, to your point, is you win one in Minnesota all of a sudden.
And they finally did
that
it
doubt
in the
starts to
clutch.
creep in.
They finally did it in the clutch again.
They did.
And
they finally got a decent cat game was the big thing. So
yes. And Anthony Edwards looked like Anthony Edwards. So
it
going back
helps.
home, that crowd into it, you forced a game 6. We got action. We got some action. You force a game 6. So let's see it.
You beat the champs 3 out of 4 on their own arena. Could you be the first team ever to come out of the 3-0 hole? You never. Someone's got to be the first team. We won't go through the history of the NBA, presumably, with no one having done it, right? It's got to happen at some point. Yes. I don't know that this is the moment and the team to do it.
All right.
But why not?
Why not? They're back at home. Why not? Can they
My
win
buddy's
on
a
their
Wolves
home floor?
fan, so I keep telling him Wolves in 7 just to make him feel better. I don't actually believe it, but, you know.
That'd be pretty
Rally
good.
the troops.
All right. We need to get to our roll call because I got to see this video that Darren Waller dropped that everybody's talking about on Twitter. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, no.
Did you see that?
What kind of video?
He has a ballot for Kelsey Plume since they got divorced.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
That's why I said I need to see this.
No shout out for you, Darren Waller. Get the hell out. I haven't even heard it. So I
don't know
really
either.
Comment on that. We don't have any stray super chats that we missed, right, Bree?
No,
all right.
Then
Then let's get out of here. Thank you, as always, to all our people for showing up for us, even though we showed up a half hour past our normal time.
Thank you.
That's how you know the love is real. Thank you to Rupert Pupkin. Thank you to my girl, Winona.
What up, Nona?
Money Mar. Spo Babby, who said it earlier, something to the effect of it was going to be a bad day to be an Olipop. It's already one Olipop deep early in the show. Yeah. Shout out to Spo Babby. AC Philla, the #1 Jason Tatum hater.
Spo Babby did say, can you do a segment on a future show about Darren Wilder's diss track towards Kelsey Plume? So,
wait, it was a diss?
I don't know. This is what he said.
Man.
So we got to see this.
This is like a full. We might have to do a separate video on this situation. Prophet 1, Philly 007, our very own.
What up, 007?
James Bond.
What up, James?
Phil W. I still love you, bro. Even though you're talking all kinds of trash in the chat.
Get Kelly Oubre some money.
Usual. Yeah, you better start working, Phil. Get Kelly that payday. Eugene G. Ross, the king of the exclamation point. Jay the Jungle. Randy Rubart. Barbara Carroll, the #1 advocate for waxing in the chat. Thank you to Barbara for that.
Thank you, Barb.
We got Dave Bootzilla.
Boots.
What up to Boots? Man, some of these repeat comments, I love them, but I hate them at the same time as I'm trying to scroll. Martian Lynch.
What up, Martian?
Trash talker extraordinaire. Thank you for coming through today, Martian. Who the hell is Derek Bodner? X-Man in the building today. What up, X? God, you guys are just relentless.
What up,
Will,
X?
My friend, my pal Will, who asked if it rained while I was doing roof work. You know damn well it rained while I was doing roof work.
Trying to get him to stop choosing
Shame
chill.
on you for asking. Will, Keith B in the house today. Sean Wolford. I'm assuming SNL maven
Keith B
Lauren
sounds
Michaels
like
was also in here today, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. I haven't seen him yet.
It's a summertime hosting show for us.
Ed Wright, you get the final shout out of the day.
What up, Ed?
Thank you, Ed, with 2 Ds.
Keith B sounds like, though, R&B 90s.
Like Keith Sweat.
90s name, Keith B.
Keith B reminds me of Keith Sweat.
Keith Sweat.
If you have not already, can everybody hit that subscribe button for me? Hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. If you hit the thumbs up button, we'll be on time tomorrow. That is almost.
Are we saying on time
Almost
like,
a Kyle Neubeck
before
guarantee.
3 o'clock or like
2:32?
2:32 count is on time?
That's on
'Cause we're
time.
not really good at that.
Within
That's
the
on time.
5-minute
All right.
window. It's like the broadcast window for NBA games. Thank you also to super producer
Well,
Bree.
ESPN does not follow that one at all.
Thank you to super producer
Fair.
Bree. And shout out to our guy Al, the
TNT
2-minute
tonight
warning.
anyway.
They're
What up
close.
to Al? Gentlemen, see you tomorrow at 2:30.
We'll have the Darren Wilder stuff.
Provolone
tomorrow.
John, almost forgot. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.